What about they're worried about what everybody else thinks?
I can tell you, man, in my life, that was one of the biggest challenges. Like growing up in the South, especially like where I am now. In fact, in some ways, I think I've been overcorrecting, making sure people know. But I think that most oftentimes suppression is wrapped in love. So if you want to go do something big with your life, let's say, it's going to be the people close to you that are threatened by you wanting to do something bigger with your life that are going to come to you and suppress you with, I'm worried about you. Don't you think you just want to get a normal job? Don't you want to just settle down? Don't you think you want to just do this over here? That's risky out there. But the truth is the risk is really in the inaction, right? I can't imagine my life if I was putting on a fire retardant suit today and walking into Exxon. Isn't that more risky than the risk I took to be able to sit in front of you?
Well, sure.
I'd say so.
Yeah, but people are afraid for some reason of other people's opinion, which I don't get at all. I keep telling people, like, if people would just literally forget that other people existed, I'm not talking about being a rude dick. I'm talking about just not caring what other people think. Yeah. Everybody would take more risk. Everybody would fall more often and stand up and go again, and everybody would win. I try to get people to, number one, raise their self-worth, because I think if you raise your self-worth, your net worth follows.
I completely agree with you. And I think that massive amounts of people leave greatness inside of them out of fear of what others would think, you know? And I did that for a very long time. It took me a while to get to the point where I would put myself out there, all out of fear of what people think. So I completely resonate with people that feel that way. But what I'll tell you is, once you do it, you realize that number one, people don't care about you as much as you think they do. It's almost, yeah.
That's a bomb, folks. Better listen up. People need to understand that. Like, people don't care about you as much as you think they do.
Yeah, it's very true.
Nor do people need you as much as you think you do.
And nor do you need them. A lot of times, people will only love you if you suppress yourself for them. For example, I always get picked on in Louisiana for ordering healthy food or being in a certain amount of shape. It's almost like it's a reverse of fat shaming. They want to suppress you and make you smaller so they can feel better about themselves. And if you realize that you're getting manipulated in that way, it starts to become very easy to take control of your own life, because they're going to love you until you do something great enough that they're going to now become uncomfortable and have to look back at themselves and the decisions that they made and be uncomfortable with themselves. And the only way they can fight that is to suppress you, because now they have to use you as a frame of reference from coming from the same place. And I think that's why suppression always gets wrapped in love, is people act like they care about you or they tell you you've changed. Well, fucking, I hope I've changed. I hope I'm changing every day, because that's where all the happiness is. You know, it's always climbing the mountain, not getting to the top, right?
Well, I like both. But I haven't found the top yet.
Well, you can't, because the thing is that if you get to the top of the mountain and you don't have a bigger mountain to climb, more consciousness, I think success is like a two-way thing. It's climbing up the mountain and it's looking for other mountains to climb. Because if you get to the top, all you can do is self-sabotage back down. You know, like that fire in you that gets excited. I think that's probably the most dangerous thing to lose.
Yeah, I would agree. Even having something to go after
that you're fired up about, that's bigger than you. So I think that's the hardest thing for a guy like you. It's easier for me right now because I'm just coming to the space where I try to let people get to know who I am. So that's very exciting to me. But I remember previous to that, I was sitting in my house putting dress shoes on to go to my construction company. I'm like looking out the back glass in my pool in the bamboo, and I'm like, man, it's a long way from the trailer park, right? I was waiting tables, and what I did is I got really relentless about how much I would go push to get a job. So there was this hospital job in town. They had the job site trailers out there. I'd gone in there twice, and the lady had turned me away. She's like, you know, I can't let you see the boss or whatever. I said, okay, fine, you know, and I came back again and again. On the fourth time I came, she goes, you know what? Stay right there. So she goes in the back. She goes, gets an old, angry looking white guy, and he comes in. He said, are you Justin? And I said, yes, sir. He said, come with me. We go to the back. He plops down in his desk. He kind of makes a motion for me to slide it over. So I just kind of slide it over like this, right? And he leans back in his chair. He looks at it. He looks at me. He looks at it. He throws it down on the table, and he goes, so you mean to tell me that you've come onto my $40 million project 4 times, interrupting my gatekeeper, trying to see the boss so you can get a job? And I said, yes, sir. He leaned back in his chair and he goes, I like that shit. Gave me a job. I always knew I wanted a business after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. But in Louisiana, to get a contractor's license, you or somebody in your family has to have a net worth of $10,000. You could have put us all together and multiplied times 5. We did not have that. So what I did is I went to the bank and I got them to auto draft everything out of my check except per diem. And so after 6 months, I had the 10 grand. So I went and applied for my contractor's license. And then I took the 10 grand, I went and put it in another bank and applied for the commercial with the same 10 grand. And that was 12 years ago.
And then that is what allowed you to start your own business?
Yes, sir.
See, now what would you call call that? Creative financing?
I guess.
Being clever? Because there's a lot of people that listen that they can't figure out how to be successful, and it blows my mind.
You know what's interesting to me is I think that they know. I always say that I'd much rather be tough than intelligent, because I think a lot of people know if they just do what they know they're supposed to do, that voice in their head that's telling them, hey, you need to go do this, if they would just fucking do that, they would find themselves a lot better off. I think a lot of times it's in action. Now, don't get me wrong. I definitely think there's competencies and intelligence, especially like interpersonally, when you're trying to get a deal done or trying to really connect with another person. But a lot of times I feel like people know what they should do and they just don't do it.
Why do you think that is?
I don't think they know how to talk to themselves. You know, they're like, let's say I go in the gym, for example. If I didn't want to go to the gym this morning, but all I do is lie to myself. You know, I feel like we both have two voices in our heads.
We do.
We have like the little bitch voice, and then we have a grown ass man voice.
I call that the boss voice.
Do you? Okay, cool.
Or the king.
Yeah,
but,
I've made videos about this. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because they're always conflicting. And so my goal is always to smother the child voice. And so the way I do that, particularly around working out or anything that I know I should be doing, is I just lie to myself and I say, look, I'm just going to go in there and do one set and leave. And the little bitch is like, okay, just one set and then we can go. I'm like, yeah, we can go, bitch. And then the next thing you know, you spend an hour because you get warmed up and you're like, this isn't so bad, or you start to get a pump or whatever it is. Or even if it's a work thing, man, you start to get a little progress. You're like, hey, I think we might be able to get this deal. And you dig into it deeper and deeper and deeper. And I catch myself in what I call waves of momentum. So you can either use discipline or you can lie to yourself. I think discipline is very important, but I also think in some ways it's a natural resource. But I'll use discipline to get into the next phase. So like, you know how it's so much more fun to exercise when you're in better shape and you look jacked?
Of course.
So I'll use discipline to get to there. Then it's like, you know, progress. Just same thing in my business. I use discipline to get to a certain point. But once we started making fucking money, well, it's, you know, your wrist never hurts when the ball's going in. You know, like when your jumper's on, you're never bitching about your wrist hurting. It's only when you're missing or you don't want to get started. So for me, I use a mixture of discipline and lying to myself. I will manipulate myself into do shit that I'm supposed to do.
Dude, so what are you doing next?
I'm pushing guys into the war room every day.
Number one, can people still join the war room?
Absolutely.
So if anybody wants to join the war room, where would they go?
They would message me on Instagram, jwaller7. The war room is not going anywhere. In fact, I don't think there's a better men's group in the world. In fact, I know there's not. I've done a bunch of groups.
It's just so cheap, bro.
Listen, I think it's the best group in the world. It helps you not step on those landmines. For the guys, beside the fact that you can make a lot of money working with the guys in the war room, it's about what you're not gonna have happen to you. The landmines in life that blow your leg off and make you have to start over.
Yeah.
You're probably not gonna go through a divorce. You're probably not gonna get your heart broke as many times. You're probably gonna have the ability to travel internationally and not get suppressed inside the walls of government.
And you'll probably have a better life enriched altogether, even
Absolutely.
travel. Like there's people that will never travel.
They'll never leave.
They're with the wrong people. Earlier when I said you got to be around the right people or change the people you're around.
Absolutely.
The war room sounds like if you want to freaking grow, almost get uncomfortable, you got to hang around different people.
And it will be that. You'll be forged by fire in the war room.
How do people hang around people in the war room?
Yeah, so there's meetups. A lot of the meetups, in fact, there was a meetup here in Vegas I went to and nobody even knew I was coming, and I just walked in. And they knew me from YouTube and obviously seeing me with Andrew, and it was a free event. And then there's summits where we go deep and dig into certain parts of either consciousness or skill set or their ability to fight or work out or what have you, or fashion or how to network. There was an event in Dubai called Penetrating the Elite. It was a world-class event, man. But these guys are getting the value and some because they make the money back. We went over proper how to network, proper how to shake hands, proper how to look somebody in the eye, fashion, what other men of certain status you look for on things, the little subtleties. I think if you're a war room guy, you're going to get your money back 20x. But I know that the war room has made me a better man in every way. And if it hadn't, I would not vouch for it the way that I do.
Is it $5,000
right now?
I'm telling you, it's worth more than that.
It is. It absolutely is. The reason I think the price is where it is because Andrew has a heart for young men. And I think $5,000 is enough to keep the complete retards out, but at the same time, attainable for a young guy that wants to work hard and put some money back and make an investment in itself. That's why I think it stays around $5,000, but I do not think it's going to stay around $5,000 for very long. So if you guys are interested, you should message me immediately. You can put a deposit down and lock that price in. And that's kind of like a war room Bitcoin, if you will, because I don't think the price is going to stay where it is.
Makes me want want to join just hearing about it.
Yeah, well, and look, man, I do feel like it's the best thing a young man could possibly do to really understand what's going on in the world and how to adapt to it and make sure that he wins.
How do you plug in to the war room without going anywhere? But you can jump into a
you jump in. So there's
room.
Different chats. So there's rooms on style, relationships, how to raise a son, how to raise a daughter, traveling.
And is it just
crypto.
Everybody's opinions, or is it certain people's opinions?
No, it's everybody. That's one thing I love about the war room is that it takes the politics away from friendship. If I really love you, I think there's a polarity to love. And what I mean by that is anybody can pat you on the back, but if I really care about you and you're fucking up, I'll stand in your fire. I will confront you, and you can be mad at me, but at least I'm not selfish enough to worry about you being upset with me because I love you so much, I'll confront you.
Sometimes you got to be told the truth.
Right. The harsh truth.
And it doesn't feel good. And guess what? That's what finally causes you to fucking shift and get the hell out of that.
And real love has courage. And a lot of people don't have the courage to confront people they care about. They'll pat them on the back, wait till they leave, and tell somebody else, man, he's fucking up. That's not a friend. The war room is not that way.
But more importantly, there's a network of guys in there that probably have businesses.
Everybody in there has a business. And it's all connected.
And it's all about, like, if I'm going to do business with somebody, why not my war room brother rather than some stranger?
Right. You already know what that person's about. It's almost having like the perfect company culture. Nobody's going to screw you over in the war room because then they have to face the rest of the guys. It's just not going to happen. You already know what this person's about. I go in the war room right now and say, hey, I need a place to stay for the next year. I would get messages from 50 countries. They would put me like nothing to worry about.
And they're all over the place.
All over the world.
Yeah. Maybe I'll join.